The year 1961 saw the Berlin Wall constructed and the Bay of Pigs invasion failed, but musically, it was one of the richest years in history. Today, we're diving into 5 songs that define the sound of '61, hidden gems that your grandchildren probably have never heard. Let's explore these classics together. Dion and Runaround Sue emerged from the tough streets of the Bronx in the late 1950s, first finding success with his group Dion and the Belmonts before striking out on his own in 1960. What many music historians conveniently gloss over is how Dion's career was nearly destroyed before it began. In February of 1959, he was supposed to be on the same plane that crashed and killed Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper. The reason Dion wasn't on that plane? He refused to pay the $36 fare, thinking it was too expensive. His working-class upbringing, where money was always tight, ironically saved his life and preserved his future musical contributions. By 1961, Dion had developed a sound that bridged doo-wop, rock and roll, and the emerging folk scene, resulting in Runaround Sue, a bitter tale of betrayal that reached #1 on the Billboard charts.
She took my love, then ran around.
The song's protagonist warns other men about a woman who breaks hearts without remorse. Quite controversial for its time and its direct criticism of female behavior. Dion's career has had remarkable staying power through decades of personal struggles, including a serious heroin addiction that began when he was just 14 years old. Now in his 80s, Dion continues releasing music with his 2020 album Blues with Friends, featuring collaborations with Paul Simon, Bruce Springsteen, and Van Morrison. In 2022, he was still touring select venues, proving his endurance in an industry that typically discards artists after their commercial peak. What makes Runaround Sue particularly fascinating is that it wasn't just fiction. It was reportedly inspired by Dion's then-girlfriend Susan, whom he later married in 1963. Yes, the woman who supposedly couldn't be trusted with any other man became his wife, and they remain married today, nearly 60 years later. This revelation cast the song in an entirely different light, suggesting it was perhaps more playful teasing than the scathing indictment of character it appears to be on the surface. The Marcels, who performed Blue Moon, was a doo-wop group formed in 1959 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They took a Rodgers and Hart standard from 1934 and completely transformed it with their distinctive bump bass vocal introduction. The group, named after a popular hairstyle of the day, consisted of 5 members: Cornelius Harp, Fred Johnson, Gene Bricker, Ron Monday, and Richard Knaus. What should have been a triumphant breakthrough for this talented interracial group instead highlighted the music industry's deeply entrenched racism. Legend has it that when famed DJ Dick Clark first heard Blue Moon, he loved it, but he asked if they were black. When told they were, he allegedly remarked that radio stations in the South wouldn't play it. The group's record company reportedly then tried to have a white band record the same arrangement, but couldn't match the Marcels' energy and authenticity. Despite these obstacles, Blue Moon reached #1 on both the Billboard Pop and R&B charts in 1961, selling over 1 million copies. The group's success was short-lived, however. Although they charted a few more hits, internal conflicts and management issues led to rapid lineup changes. None of the original members are performing today, with the last founding member, Fred Johnson, passing away in 2013. A version of the Marcels does occasionally tour the oldie circuit, but with entirely new performers who have no connection to the original group. The Marcels' approach to Blue Moon fundamentally influenced how artists approach standards, proving that radical interpretations could breathe new life into established classics. Perhaps the most iconic aspect of the Marcels' recording of Blue Moon is that it was actually intended just as a B-side. The group had only 15 minutes left in their 3-hour recording session when producer Stu Phillips suggested that they try the standard. That hurried, last-minute recording became their signature hit and one of the most memorable arrangements of the early rock era. Even more surprisingly, the iconic bass vocal intro that made the song instantly recognizable was borrowed from an earlier Marcels recording called Heartaches that had failed to chart, proving that sometimes recycling your own ideas can lead to unexpected success. You folks lived through these times. I'm just reporting on them. What memories do these songs bring back for you? Share your stories in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this musical journey through 1961, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The Marvelettes, who had a hit with Please Mr. Postman, were just teenagers from Inkster High School in Michigan when they entered a school talent contest, hoping to win a local audition with Motown Records. These young women, Gladys Horton, Katherine Anderson, Georgiana Tillman, and Juanita Cowart, as well as Georgia Dobbins, weren't even planning on a music career. They just wanted to avoid taking a school final exam, which was their alternative to participating in the talent show. Their victory led them to Motown founder Berry Gordy, but with a catch: they needed original material. Dobbins borrowed a blues song from a friend, William Garrett, completely rewrote the lyrics to make it about waiting for a letter from a boyfriend, and Please Mr. Postman was born. However, Dobbins left the group before the recording to care for her ailing mother and was replaced by Wanda Young, creating a crucial personnel change before their breakthrough. This teenage group made history when Please Mr. Postman became Motown's first #1 pop hit in late 1961. The song's simple premise, waiting desperately for a letter from a distant boyfriend, resonated deeply during a time when young men were increasingly being drafted and stationed far from home. Many don't realize that Please Mr. Postman featured a young Marvin Gaye on drums years before his own solo stardom. The Marvelettes continued recording throughout the 1960s, but were gradually overshadowed by other Motown girl groups like the Supremes. Today, none of the Marvelettes are actively performing, with lead singer Gladys Horton having passed away in 2011. Wanda Young, who sang lead on many of their later hits, died in December of 21 at age 78, closing the chapter on this pioneering group. The signature wait a minute hook in Please Mr. Postman wasn't originally part of the song. According to group members, during recording, producer Brian Holland was trying to give instructions to the studio musicians and kept saying, "Wait a minute," to hold them before starting another take. The young, inexperienced Marvelettes thought this was direction for them and incorporated it into their performance. Rather than correcting it, Holland recognized the catchiness of the phrase and kept it in the final version, creating one of the most memorable hooks in early Motown history. The Tokens, who had a massive hit with The Lion Sleeps Tonight, came from Brooklyn, New York in 1955, first performing as the Linktones before settling on their more familiar name in 1960. The group consisted of Neil Sedaka, who left before their major success, Hank Medress, Jay Siegel, and brothers Phil and Mitch Margot. What most Americans don't realize is that The Lion Sleeps Tonight has a deeply problematic history of cultural appropriation and copyright theft. The song originated as Mbube, lion. Written in 1939 by Solomon Linda, a South African Zulu musician who received only a single payment of less than $2 for his recording. The song traveled through folk music circles, being adapted by Pete Seeger as Wimoweh, and finally to the Tokens version, while Linda died in poverty in 1962. It wasn't until 2006 that Linda's family finally received proper compensation after a lengthy legal battle, decades after major record companies had earned millions from his creation. When The Lion Sleeps Tonight hit #1 on the Billboard charts in 1961, its African origins were virtually unknown to American audiences, who simply enjoyed its unique sound and catchy falsetto chorus. The song has since become one of the most recognizable melodies in popular music, featured in numerous commercials, films, and most notably, Disney's The Lion King. The Tokens continued performing in various configurations throughout the decades, with Jay Siegel leading a version of the group until recently. Phil Margot, one of the original members, passed away in November of 2021 at the age of 79. The group's legacy remains complicated, their talents undeniable, but their greatest success came from a melody they neither wrote nor properly credited until forced to by litigation. During the recording session for The Lion Sleeps Tonight, the iconic soprano counter melody wasn't performed by any of the Tokens, but by opera singer Anita Darien. Producer Hugo Peretti wanted something to complement the falsetto lead, but felt it needed a classically trained voice. Darien, who was recording in a nearby studio, was brought in to add the high wordless melody that floats above the chorus. This classically trained Armenian-American opera singer's contribution became one of the most recognizable elements of the song, yet she remained largely uncredited and unknown to most listeners who assumed it was simply one of the group members with an exceptional range. The Shirelles, who formed in 1957 in Passaic, New Jersey, were high school friends who began singing together for a school talent show. The original lineup consisted of Shirley Owens, Doris Coley, Addie Mickey Harris, and Beverly Lee. Their journey to stardom reveals the exploitative nature of the early music industry toward the young, especially female artists. Signed to Decca Records and then Scepter Records, the Shirelles were reportedly paid just $4,000 total for Mama Said, despite the song reaching number 4 on the Billboard charts. In the early 1960s, many record companies took advantage of young, naive performers who had little understanding of publishing rights or royalty structures. By the time the Shirelles realized how badly they were being shortchanged, their brief window of chart dominance was closing, leaving them with little financial security from their groundbreaking musical contributions. As the first female vocal group of the rock era, the Shirelles paved the way for countless girl groups that followed. Mama Said, released in early 1961, addressed teenage insecurity and heartbreak from a distinctively female perspective, with maternal wisdom as its anchor. The song's message about resilience, Mama Said There'll Be Days Like This, offered a philosophy that resonated across generational and racial lines. Their influence extended to British groups like the Beatles, who covered their songs and cited them as influences. After numerous legal battles over their name and recordings, Beverly Lee eventually secured the rights to the Shirelles' name and continued performing occasionally with new members until recent years. She remains the only surviving original member following the passing of Shirley Owens in 2023. From the streets of the Bronx to the high schools of Michigan, these 5 songs from 1961 didn't just define a year. They helped shape modern music as we know it. If you enjoyed this journey through the sounds of 61, be sure to subscribe for more volumes in our series. Next time, we'll explore more hidden stories behind the songs that form the soundtrack of your youth. Until then, keep those records spinning.